Is there a gender pay gap? Well, yes. And no. And it depends on who you ask.
Over the course of her career, a working woman with a college degree will earn, on average, hundreds of thousands of dollars less than a man who does the same work. Now, that's wrong.
And in fact, if you look at this nonsense about, women are paid like 70 whatever cents for every man, which obviously that's not true, because if that was true, I would only hire women and pay them 77 cents on a dollar. I mean, if you could actually hire women cheaper than men, I mean, why would I ever hire a man? I would only hire women.
I mean, women are not paid the same amount of money as blokes in so many professions, and I think we need to pay women more in sport, in all sorts of different jobs.
Well, regardless of whether the product's as good.
So you might as well say that brown-eyed people earn more than blue-eyed people and call it discrimination based on this data, in the same way that we're saying gender is being discriminated against. Neither are legitimate because you just haven't actually broken it down to see what the real comparisons are.
The gender pay gap is calculated by taking all of women's wages, all of men's wages, lining them up from highest to lowest, and then comparing the middle number, or the median. In Australia, the gender pay gap sits at just 14%. This means each week men are earning an average of $263.90 more than women. It doesn't mean that women with the same expertise and experience are being paid 14% less than men with the same expertise and experience. That would be gender discrimination, and it's very much illegal. But it does mean that in order for women to earn the same average salary as men in Australia, women must work an additional 60 days after the end of the financial year. So how are women being paid less than men? Well, there's a number of factors. Women tend to dominate in lower paying professions, including administration jobs, teaching and healthcare, while men tend to be in trade and labour jobs and other professions with higher wage ceilings. A lot of the male-dominated professions do not have university degrees attached to them, while a lot of the female-dominated professions do. Right now, for every 100 women enrolled in university in Australia, there are just 72 men. This means there's a difference in how much debt is being accrued and how quickly that can be paid down. On average, it takes an Aussie university graduate with a basic bachelor degree about a decade to completely pay off their student loans. So, on average, a lot more women are starting out in the workforce with a higher education debt to pay back, which will affect how much they are able to take home in the first 10 years on the job. When you start to look at managerial roles, you start to see an even clearer picture of the gender divide. While women make up half the workforce overall, women are underrepresented in CEO positions and on company boards. Frankly, the higher up you go, the fewer women you see. But then, even when they're in the same industries, women tend to stay in junior positions while men are elevated to senior roles faster. The divide widens with age, and especially after having children. The pay gap between workers aged 18 to 39 around the world is near zero, but things start to change around the age of 40. In 2017, it was calculated that 56% of women scaled back their work hours or switched to a less demanding job after the birth of their first child. That was compared to 19% of first-time fathers who did the same. But even if the impact on a man's career after he becomes a father might be smaller, it doesn't mean he doesn't pay a price. Men often have to sacrifice time with their families in order to keep progressing in their career.
Many men say, well, I have work and I support my family, but I see my family very little. I would like to be much more involved in my family's lives.
So how do we fix the parental issue for both sides? Well, one solution would be to introduce more workplace rights for men. Now, before you revoke my feminist card and cancel me on Twitter, hear me out, because this could work. Some companies around the world have introduced a dedicated, properly paid leave period just for fathers that equals the time and pay offered to women on maternity leave. When men are allowed to take extended parental leave without sacrificing their pay packet, it breaks the perception that women might be more of a risk to a company because they are more likely to take extended time off. So, If the entire workforce, regardless of gender, has the same access to adequate family leave entitlements, it creates a more supportive environment, both at work and at home.